We're live. Shabeen,
Good.
last Shabeen of 2023. Lauren, the cocktail McMullan in the house. Barry, the turtleneck Chandler in the house. You're all very welcome to our final live stream of 2023. We're very excited to have you. Lauren, how are you getting on?
I'm doing the very best. Cannot believe that we are a week out from a visit from the big man in a red suit. I am Mrs. Claus for tonight, stepping in for a few elves to make some lovely Irish whiskey cocktails. Yeah, looking forward to it. Cannot believe that we're almost at the end of the year. Hard to believe.
Who's on mute here? Somebody says somebody's on mute.
I think that was before we went live. I saw that one. I think we're good.
We're okay? Everyone can hear me all right? Okay. Hopefully the audio is okay. Hopefully. If not, we'll fix it. Okay. Kean says a distinct lack of Lauren in the opening credits. We have to change that. We'll do a new video. Seeing as Lauren has joined the old lineup. But you know, adding her to the starting opening credits would signify that we were going to keep her here. Like, that might be a big move. That's
a big risk. That's a big commitment. Maybe in the new year we'll have a new Shabeen opening credits. Who knows? We'll see if we have
time. It's a bit like they say, never name a ship after somebody that's alive.
Yeah.
In case they do something terrible, and now you're stuck with a ship named after somebody. So we'll roll that. We'll figure it out. We'll weigh up the pros and cons of adding you to the credits.
Same concept as you should never get like a tattoo of a celebrity's face on you in case they do something, as you said, not so great, and then you're stuck with them on your skin forever. Not ideal.
Folks, tell us where you're joining us from. Tell us what's in your glass. If it's whiskey, if it's tea, if it's water, if you've got cocktail ingredients ready. We have got the winter Christmas cocktails by Lauren tonight. She's going to be mixing and messing in her kitchen and causing all kinds of trouble. And cocktails are a massive part of Irish whiskey. And I always think that they don't get any attention, or they get kind of just a little bit of attention. Like you see a lot of whiskey brands posting a picture of a cocktail with a closed bottle of whiskey beside it, you know. And I'm like, you didn't even make that cocktail, did you? So I think we'd like to go a little bit deeper into it and actually hero the cocktail tonight, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's no denying that the use of Irish whiskey cocktails have contributed to the growth of the category as a whole. It's a fantastic way to introduce people to whiskey if they're a little bit afraid of maybe having it neat for the first time. Introduce someone to whiskey via whiskey sour, an old-fashioned, a classic. You can't go wrong. To me, a lot of the cocktails that we're focusing on tonight are crowd pleasers. And it's you really can't ignore the impact that it's had on the category as a whole.
You think about things like the Irish coffee, one of the most consumed Irish whiskey cocktails on planet Earth, and responsible for, I would argue, the survival of Irish whiskey in the 60s and 70s. Nick Knight says, cheers from the Wolf and Whiskey Stories and Sips O'Connell's peat cask and glass. Exactly the same as me. I've got the, here's the peat cask. I've got the peat cask in my glass from W.D. O'Connell. So cheers to you there, Nick. Chris saying, don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, folks, if you're watching this on YouTube, which you are, just hit the like button while you're watching. Just go tap like, and vote early, vote often. And that'll be helpful for us. Yeah, Julie's got JJ Corrie the Hansen in her glass. Good for you, Julie. Lovely drop. We'll be visiting JJ Corrie in the new year ahead of our whiskey bus.
Roll around quickly.
I will. John's in Charleston with a glass of Pierce in hand. Good man, John. David Stewart, Redbreast 27 in honor of his dad, who would have been 82 today. David, raise a glass there.
Also raise one for you, David.
Memory of your dad. Dunville's PX12 for Rick. Good man, Rick. All right. There's
a lot of good pours tonight.
There are, yeah. Kevin's joining us from Austin, starting with Powers Cast Strength and the cocktail ingredients ready to go. Good man, Kevin. Fair play to you. I saw a lot of people producing and preparing cocktail ingredients, Rich included. Rich is there.
Fair play. Everyone's committed to the cause. I love it.
Lauren, in your time at Bushmills, when it came to brand advocacy and trying to spread the word of Bushmills, was placement on a cocktail menu an important element of that.
Massively. Yeah, that was really, to be honest, especially with either a new account or maybe an account that was very high volume in terms of cocktails. You were nearly fighting people for a space on the menu, because especially coming up to Christmas with staff parties and people going out for the festive season, the first thing they ask for is usually a cocktail menu, and it's such a fantastic way to get brand recognition, and for people to enjoy your whiskey in a way that they might not otherwise have if it hadn't have been on the menu. So a lot of time you nearly need to take the choice out of the consumer's hands and present them with something like a cocktail menu, so they're not kind of scarring the back bar. So yeah, it was massively important, and it was very often, it was kind of a sort of a target of mine every year, is to do certain cocktail menu placements in bars, and it worked wonders. I remember a great example of just how effective it is in terms of sales for a brand. I did an event with the Sexton, which of course we're using tonight in one of our cocktails, and an account put on one of my cocktails, and they sold 16 cases in a month. 16 cases of the Sexton. So
Amazing.
yeah, you need to be on the menu. Yeah.
It is the I talked to a lot of small whiskey producers, and one of their big goals early on is to get on a high volume cocktail menu. And like, especially now, like I see like the likes of JJ Carey work very hard to get on cocktail menus in New York, in places like Swift's Hibernian Lounge, in the Dead Rabbit, and that's massive for volume for them. And it's funny how versions of the Irish whiskey world exist, and we don't always think of each other. Like, us sipping neat Irish whiskey almost ignores completely the fact that most Irish whiskey is consumed with ginger ale or in a cocktail, in an Irish coffee, or as a shot at 3 o'clock in the morning, and is not consumed the way we drink it. But it's not that anyone is right or wrong, but it's fascinating and great how many different ways Irish whiskey is consumed. Tonight, we're going to focus on the cocktail side of it, which has Irish whiskey has been part of cocktails for, I would say, almost 200 years. And you've got 3 crackers for us tonight. For those who are joining along, the ingredients are all on the description here on the YouTube channel, on the description of this live stream. They're also on our Stories and Sips Facebook page if you want to get the ingredients there. If you are enticed, encouraged, enthused, a thirst made watching Lauren make these, you'll be able to find all the ingredients and the utensils there to make them tomorrow. And of course, the live stream is recorded, so you can watch this YouTube shebeen any day you want, coming up to Christmas or anytime afterwards. Do you have a favorite Irish whiskey cocktail, even if it's not one of these 3?
My mind, when someone asks me that question, always goes to an old fashioned, because I think it is quite literally the easiest cocktail to make. It's so simple: sugar, whiskey, bitters. That's it. That's all you need. It's so easy to batch as well. You can keep it in your fridge, especially the sugar syrup. So easy to batch up, keep it in your fridge. It keeps for a good while. You can use it at parties, you can use it for yourself every night, at the weekends, whenever you want. So I would have to go with an old fashioned. And again, you can make it so personal as well. You can change up the syrup. You can kind of adjust the ratios to fit yourself. If you have a sweeter tooth, add a little bit more sugar syrup. If you like it a little bit more sharp, add more bitters. It's just such a moldable, simple cocktail, and it's a classic, and it's great. Also an Irish coffee, though. I love an Irish coffee.
There's one ingredient for Irish whiskey cocktails that I feel doesn't get enough love. In fact, it should be getting 10 times more love than it normally gets. And it's a kind of an American ingredient. Often you'll find it going head to head with Coca-Cola, but this now could hold its own against some of the best bitters and sugar syrups you're going to throw at me. I feel like we need a bit more Diet Pepsi or Pepsi Max in the world in our cocktails.
Do you know what? I'm going to challenge you tonight. When you make the old-fashioned, add a few dashes of that and tell me how it goes.
You might never see me again. I might run off into the distance, happy, and having achieved nirvana.
This new concoction of Pepsi Max old fashions.
Um, Richard says it is just sugar water, and that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
the original cocktail was just a spirit, sugar, and water or bitters,
Yeah.
and that was it. That was the original cocktail. The old fashioned is the original cocktail.
Exactly. Yeah, and it actually was traditionally made with rum. It wasn't even whiskey. It was traditionally made with rum or gin quite a lot. And it's a guy, James E. Pepper, around I think it's 18 in the 1880s anyway. He
It
was
wasn't
kind of
Dr. Pepper, no, it wasn't
no,
Dr.
no,
Pepper.
no, you're obsessed with these versions of Pepsi and Coke. No relation to Dr. Pepper, no. He was credited in Louisville, in Kentucky, in the Pendennis Club of creating it with whiskey. And then he brought that concoction of making an old fashioned to the Waldorf Astoria in New York, and then from there the cocktail really went on to global fame. So we have James E. Pepper to thank for using whiskey instead of rum or gin in an old fashioned cocktail. So as you know, it's one of the most popular ways to consume Irish whiskey.
I think it would be an awfully boring world if all we did was drink our whiskey neat. I
Yeah,
think there's so many. If we're truly about flavor, okay, so we'll put this out there. If we're truly about flavor, finding it, and we're truly about supporting the Irish whiskey industry, you're none of those things if you argue against the use of mixing Irish whiskey in cocktails,
yeah,
because the amount of flavors that are possible when you introduce another couple of bits and pieces, and the amount of support you can provide the industry by getting cocktails listed on menus. I mean, you think about that one journalist, Stan Delaplane, who wrote for the San Francisco Chronicle 1952, went back to San Francisco and told the owner of his local bar called the Buena Vista Cafe about this man in Shannon making things called Irish coffees, and he has to try and recreate them here. So this man fell in love with an Irish whiskey cocktail in Ireland, came back to a bar and ended up convincing that bar owner to start making these Irish coffees that today, the Buena Vista Cafe, 60 years later, is the largest producer, largest seller of Irish coffees on planet Earth. So, if any of you would like to hero the Whiskey Pepsi Max and bring it to your local bar and say, look, there's this lad online, right? He's not quite well, but he talks a lot about Pepsi Max and whiskey, and he wears a turtleneck every now and again. I think we should add this to the menu. It could be the making of a bar. You never know.
it could be appearing on cocktail menus all over the US. Obviously, with full credit to yourself for coming up with such a unique concoction. But as you said earlier, we are in the minority. Like I know in our Irish whiskey community, we all think we're great and we drink whiskey neat and we're wonderful, and we are. We definitely are. But we're in the minority of people who drink whiskey neat and actually really enjoy it neat. So we need the cocktails to bring a few other millions of people around the world into our realm.
The whiskey ginger, the big ginger, which was created in Minneapolis in Minnesota by our friend who runs who started the Irish Whiskey Company, Two Gingers,
Mm,
in going back, like what, this is going back to the late 90s, early 2000s. Kieran Folliard, he created what became the most, he had a bar in Minneapolis that sold more Jameson than any other bar on the planet, right? And he decided, you know what, with all the price increases that were coming, he got 3 or 4 price increases in a year from Jameson. He said, enough of that, I'll come out with my own whiskey. So he worked with Cooley Distillery, released Two Gingers Irish whiskey, took Jameson off the menu, instead put his own whiskey in there. Smart move. Created the cocktail, the Big Ginger, which was just Two Gingers Irish whiskey, ginger ale, and I think it was a lime and an orange. I think that was it, inside it, and that was it. And it became a massive seller, huge seller. Um, the He talks about how he got people into Irish whiskey by introducing them to a very refreshing cocktail, and we can't convert everybody if their first sip of whiskey is going to be a cask strength peated whiskey. So know our audience and start small.
Kevin just said there the only way he can get his wife to drink whiskey is via a cocktail. That's the same case with almost all of my family and friends. none of my close friends really would be massive whiskey drinkers. Obviously within the industry, of course they are, but I'm talking sort of school, university. And the only way, if we're on a night out together, I can physically get them to hold a glass of whiskey is if it is a Jameson ginger and lime. And I'm not mad about it. As long as they're drinking it, it's fine. But yeah, it's the same case with a lot of people.
What are we going to do tonight, Lauren?
So tonight, we're a week away from Christmas. I would say the proper festivities will really kick off this week. You might be having friends around, family members around, if they're traveling from other states to your home, running up to Christmas, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day itself, Boxing Day, even after the day, the day itself. And you don't know what to do to entertain them, especially if they don't like neat whiskey, as we've mentioned. We are here to give you some suggestions as to how you might entertain your guests with a lovely cocktail. So we have taken really 3 classics. 2 of them are whiskey based, one of them is typically not. But these are 3 relatively easy to make cocktails. And as we go through them, I can tell you ways in which you can kind of adjust them to make it really suit yourself. As I said, if you have a sweeter palate, if you like maybe a little bit more of a spirit heavy drink, or you like the bitter side of things, we can talk through that as well. So it's really 3 festive twists on 3 very classic cocktails. So we have a whiskey sour, a cranberry whiskey sour, we have a gingerbread festive old fashioned, and then we'll finish up with a whiskey teeny / sextini, which was one of my favorite ways to drink the sexton, still is. And as I said, if anyone has any questions, or if you want to know how to sort of make it more friendly, more palatable to yourself, drop them in the comments. And as Barry said, these ingredients will live online here forevermore if you ever want to entertain a lot of people or yourself.
And I do encourage you to ask questions about this, even if you're not making the cocktails along with us, or maybe you'll come back and do this later or share this with somebody who will. But this is a chance for us to have a good conversation about mixing. And while none of us profess to be mixologists, that's never going to stop us pretending that we know what we're doing. And it never held Lauren back before anyway.
No, definitely not. I've never worked in a bar in my life. I do not claim to be a professional bartender or mixologist, just a disclaimer. So anything that goes wrong, please do not blame me. Blame, I don't know who to blame.
Blame me, apparently.
You for letting me do this. But to be honest, a lot of them are very simple. I will probably make a mess of my kitchen. I have no doubt about that. There's a lot of syrups and a lot of fruits that are very sticky and citrusy, and yeah, but listen, we'll have a bit of crack while we do it. Sure, we
that's
always
all we're
do.
here for. That's all we're here for.
That's all we're here for.
We never claimed to educate or entertain, only have the crack ourselves. And if somebody else has the crack adjacent to us, it's all the better.
Absolutely. I also have some ice, which I will have to run and get in about 2 seconds from my freezer. I didn't want to bring it out too early. In case
you go run and get your ice, and I'll talk a little bit about some other bits and pieces here.
Perfect.
Right, now that she's gone, let's talk about her. Not that far gone, you can hear her in the corner. Folks, this is our last shebeen of the year, and we've had a great year with great support by yourselves for Irish whiskey, for us at Stories and Sips, at Irish Whiskey Experiences, and with Anthony at Irish Whiskey Auctions. We're very pleased and thrilled and very humbled by how many of you come out every week, support our events, support our trips, support the auctions, support everything that's going on between the 3 of us. We don't have any plans of slowing down in any way in 2024. We've got lots coming up. We have many whiskey bus trips and Irish Whiskey Experiences coming. We've got lots of great whiskey club releases. Anthony's got lots of great developments with his Irish Whiskey Auctions. As we always say, nobody's under any obligation to do anything with us, but we love when you do, and we've made some great friends this year because of it. Honestly, people that we call our friends now that we didn't know until we got involved in the shebeen or Stories and Sips or Irish Whiskey Experiences, and so we feel very lucky for that. And that's my little bit of poignancy before we kick off into the cocktails. You've been great comfort and support to us throughout the year, And hopefully we've been some of that to you as well. And if there's things we can do that we're not doing, please let us know. And if they're not too much, we'll certainly look into doing them. But tonight is all about the crack. It's all about the old cocktails. And so it's appropriate that we hero Lauren on the screen here now. Before we kick off the cocktails, all I would ask is that you click the like button. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, do it. It costs you all of $0.00, and it helps us with getting more exposure. And that's it. And can we also admire the efforts that Lauren has gone to present herself on this occasion? This is a hat she normally wears year round, but it's not always this color. She matches her outfits typically on Monday to Friday with a hat.
This is, I know, I think it's showing, it looks purple on my camera. Maybe that's just my camera, but it's definitely a red Santa hat. I was just about to mention the very man who's appeared in the comments, Paul Costello. I was trying to rival his red sparkly jacket that you might have seen appear on his social media. So now that he's seen it, he's away now. We can get started.
He got his money's worth. You're not going to get any more. Honestly, Paul, you're not going to get any more value tonight. This is as valuable as the night gets.
No, that's it. No, there's no knowledge to be found here. There's nothing to learn, just a mess to be made. Hence the mixer and messer. I think that's a great tagline for me, and that should stay all year round. I would argue. So will we get started? I have my eyes.
Let's do it. Absolutely. What are we kicking off with?
So we are kicking off with probably the messiest cocktail, because I wanted it out of the way. There's egg white involved. It's a little bit sticky with the syrup, with the lemon juice. So I thought, let's knock this one out of the park first of all. So I have a relatively clean shaker for the rest of the evening. So just to preface this, and I mentioned this in the group.
What is it though? Which one is this? Just
Cranberry Whiskey Sour.
Okay, perfect.
We're starting in the order that I posted in the group during the week. It's the Cranberry Whiskey Sour. You do not have to use the same whiskey that I'm using as a base here. These are just whiskeys that I have kind of over time through trial and error used in these whiskey cocktails and have really enjoyed them. And that's my personal preference. So you can switch it up. I would say the majority of you in this chat have all three of these whiskeys, no problem anyway. But if you don't worry. As I said, you can change it up. So I have already slightly gone ahead, but I'm going to talk very slowly through each ingredient if anyone is making it along with me. So the first thing you need for any whiskey sour is freshly squeezed lemon juice. So all you do is get a regular size lemon. They don't need to be huge lemons. Cut it in half and squeeze out the juice. You can squeeze it directly into, like I have here, like 1/2 of a shaker. Or if you're using sort of a protein shaker, and sort of anything that can be sealed, it can be a water bottle. People have made cocktails on my live streams before using jam jars, sealed jam jars to shake, so it can be anything. So all you do is cut the lemon in half, and you typically need about 15 mils of lemon juice. So what you squeeze out of 1/2 of a lemon is typically around about that. You'll get between 15 to 20 mils out of 1/2 of a lemon. So all you need to do is just squeeze it directly into the shaker, and that's you done. Now I have not added any ice or anything into this yet. Okay, always add your syrups and your citrus and your spirit first before you add any ice, which is especially important for a whiskey sour as well, as you have to dry shake it first. And what a dry shake is you shake it without ice, which really helps to aerate the cocktail, that egg white, and get that lovely frothy kind of creamy mouthfeel that you want in a whiskey sour. So lemon juice first, need about 15 to 20 mils. As I said, this can be adjusted slightly depending on your preference. The next thing I'm going to do is take what makes this a little bit different from a regular whiskey sour. You would typically use just plain sugar syrup, which would be 1:1 sugar to water. Gently simmer it over a light heat until the sugar dissolves. But what I've done here, and what I saw Rich, shout out to him, fair play to you yesterday, you were making it in the group and posting it was brilliant, is some cranberry syrup, okay? Mine looks a little bit radioactive on the camera, but it's not, I promise. So you can buy all of these syrups pre-batched. You don't have to make them yourself if you don't have time or you don't want to. There's great brands out there. Monin would be one of the best ones, Monin. I did check during the week. They do have a US website and they can ship. They're fantastic. They do great syrups for bars, for sort of coffee houses, cafes, places like that. They have mint syrup, they have hazelnut, they have cranberry, ginger, mint, you name it. They're fantastic. Barry, you might do me a favor and put it in the group chat, Monin. They're great. Thank you. So what we've done with the cranberry syrup here, it's really simple to make. Again, this is something you can batch over the festive period. Cranberry is a great sort of winter spice. Lovely adds to that sort of winter spice note as well. It's really, really nice. So I'm going to take about 25 mils of this, okay, in my jigger. Let me see if I've got the right size. Perfect. So I'm literally just taking 25 mils and adding that in with the lemon juice a little bit more.
And is it all going into the shaker, Lauren?
All going into the shaker. Yep, just adding that straight in along with the lemon juice. So we've had 15 mils lemon juice so far and about 25 mils of the cranberry syrup. So all I did to make this earlier was add about 1 cup of cranberries, 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of water and let it simmer, almost bring it to a boil to really release those flavors from the cranberries. And then what you want to do when you can tell that the sugar has dissolved, just really gently kind of pop the cranberries to release more of those flavors and aromas, and then fine strain it as well. You don't want to be left with any residue, get rid of the solids. And then the most important part, so we've got the lemon juice, we have the cranberry syrup. The most important part is the whiskey. So I am using Redbreast 12 for the whiskey sour. Everyone always describes Redbreast whiskey as being kind of like the Christmas whiskey. There's those beautiful kind of Christmas cake notes, dried fruits, and I thought it's the perfect base for the whiskey sour along with the cranberry syrup. They'll just complement each other so well. So for me, when I'm making cocktails, I think for all of these cocktails, I have the same measurement of whiskey, which is 50 mils, 50 mils. Bar, you can maybe translate this to ounces.
About 1 3/4 ounces.
Perfect. So again, just pouring it straight into my little measuring tool, my jigger. As I said, during the week, you can use sort of a measuring jug, a cup, anything at all. So about 50 mils of that, just a little bit more. Perfect. Again, if you want more whiskey, knock yourself out. That's no problem. You could add another 5 mils. If you want less, you can really range from kind of 30 to 45 mils minimum if you want to. So it's no problem. Okay. And then the final thing you want to do, this is where the whiskey sours get a little bit messy and they're a nightmare when you're making them for people. Most bartenders actually hate making sours for this reason. 1, because it takes a while because you have to shake it twice, and 2, because of the egg white. So you want to get just a medium to large egg, and we're only wanting to use the egg white, okay? This is something that puts a lot of people off cocktails when they see it on a menu. I admit, before I kind of entered the whiskey industry and before I was really into my cocktails, it was something that I kind of found a little bit strange as well. When you see egg white mentioned, you kind of think, oh, that's disgusting. You genuinely cannot taste it. The purpose of the egg white is to create that lovely sort of cream, that froth, and as I said earlier, that texture. So it's purely there kind of for the consistency of the cocktail. You will not taste it at all. So what you want to do is, same in your shaker, just crack the egg. This is where I make a mess also. And then you kind of balance the two together. Obviously don't let the yolk into your cocktail. You do not want that. Perfect. I actually managed to do that without too much mess there. Give your hands a clean.
Good job on the separation there. Good job.
Thank you. Didn't get a yolk in my cocktail. No one wants a bit of salmonella on a Sunday evening. So
that's Monday's job.
give your hands a wipe. I must bring my hand sanitizer a little bit closer to me. And then what you want to do is, if you have got anything kind of around your shaker that will make it sticky or make it slippy, you do not want to have a cocktail shaker fly out of your hand, okay? So give it a little bit of a wipe. And then you still don't want to add ice. So we're not adding any ice just yet. That will come. So you want to create a vacuum. So hit it down. Make sure you're not going to get any liquid spill out the side. And then you want to dry shake it for about 30 seconds. We didn't think, Barry, we should have maybe had some intro music while I do this so no one's just staring at me shake a cocktail.
Ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding,
Provide the
ding,
entertainment on a
ding,
Sunday.
ding, 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 ding. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.
Lovely.
Okay, good
That
enough.
was absolutely stunning. There we go. To separate the shaker, give it a good slap, and then what smells amazing. What you should have, hopefully you can see the kind of, I'll try not to spill it over
I
my
can't see
laptop.
that yet. No, maybe lower the. Can you angle the camera a small bit into it? No.
Maybe could hold on, let me see. Let me see if we can lower it down.
There we
There we
go.
are.
Yeah, see the
So
froth.
you can
Lovely.
see how it has that lovely froth. If it doesn't have that, shake it for a couple more seconds, but that's looking, I'm pretty happy with that now. And then what I want to do, so this is the 2-part shake. We've done the dry shake. You want to add ice. So I have really nice sort of blocks of square ice here. I'll probably add about 3 of those into the shaker.
Okay.
So nice and close it down. If you don't have square ice, do not worry. Crushed ice, anything at all is fine. You're going to strain it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Then you're going to give it a good hit again, create that vacuum, and this is the best sound in the world. And can you see that condensation?
We can.
When you feel the shaker or your flask or whatever start to get a little bit cold and you see that condensation, perfect. So give it a good hit if I can get it off.
And for those of you who don't want to use egg whites, there is a substitute that's an extract from chickpeas called aquafaba, and it'll also make a froth as well. And if you're dairy free,
get my strainer. So what you then want to do is get a strainer like this here. Okay. If you don't have one of these, again, like a fine sieve, any form of sort of barrier between any potential solids, any ice, anything like that in the shaker that you don't want to pass on to your glass, you want some form of strainer. So I'm just going to
and
put
before
that
you do that, will you hold it up to show the pouring? Brilliant.
Of course. So for the likes of a whiskey sour, you want a coupe glass, something like this here. It doesn't really matter though. I've been served whiskey sours in rocks glasses as well with a bit of ice. Everyone will have their own sort of variation on it. It doesn't really matter. Now, let me see. Hopefully this comes out really nice.
Will you pour it where we can see it though? Up higher, up higher, up higher, up higher, up higher. Yeah, there you go. Lovely. Beautiful.
So, and then what you want to do is give it a nice little sort of gentle shake. So hold on, I might have to set this down to do this. So you get the rest of kind of that foam, that froth. I'll hold it up at the end out of the drink. Yeah, that's settling really nice. Just to make sure you've got all of the foam coming out.
Lovely.
Okay.
Looks great.
Okay, this is looking good. I'm liking this. And then what you can do, so you can leave it like this. Okay.
Beautiful.
It's a lovely color. It's like a light pink color.
Very nice.
Come from the cranberry. What you can do if you want is set a few cranberries on top. If they float, they might not. You could set a few on top of it if you really want to. Yeah, they actually do. So I'm going to just add, hopefully you can see, a couple of little cranberries.
Beautiful. Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Just as a little garnish. You can also add, I suggested a sprig of rosemary as well, just to place it inside. Or you can also use like little cocktail sticks almost, like these little guys. And you could kind of stick the cranberries on that and place them across the glass just to make it look fancy. You don't actually need any of that. It's just if you want a nice aesthetic looking cocktail. And there we have a Redbreast 12 cranberry whiskey sour.
Beautiful. Give it a taste and tell us what you're getting.
Everyone.
Sláinte. Amazing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Really nice. The cranberry really, really complements all those flavors that we mentioned before of the Redbreast 12. That is a perfect, well-balanced, well-rounded, not too sweet, but not too bitter festive cocktail. There we are.
That's a great cocktail to welcome your guests who are coming over this week or Christmas Eve. Give them one of these.
You
It's
wouldn't
Christmas
mind
in the glass.
you wouldn't mind if someone reached you that coming in your door now, would you?
No, that's
Pinkies.
brilliant.
Don't pinkies out. The comments are flying in, guys. This is great, unbelievable.
That's great.
So yeah, this is really, really tasty. You get just that kind of almost like that sort of tartness from the cranberry, but it's not, as I said, it's not too much. Really, really nice. And that's a great way to kick it off. So the substitute there, as I said, is rather than just normal sugar syrup, add a little bit of cranberry syrup in. I made quite a big batch of it earlier. It's sitting in my fridge, and that will keep me for well over probably into the new year as well, which is great.
And with the with simple syrups, if you are making them for periods of time, or to store for periods of time, put them in glass as opposed to plastic.
Yeah.
So glass will like boiled glass, well cleaned glass that'll allow it to. It'll be preserved for a lot longer. I made the mistake of making it during lockdown. I was going through old fashions like cups of tea, but I was so I wasn't leaving my simple syrup for too long. But on occasion I did. I left it in a little plastic bottle in the fridge. I couldn't work out why the old fashioned was tasting off. And eventually somebody smarter than me was like, yeah, that's gone off.
Yeah. It's yeah, you definitely keep it in glass bottles. Like even like, you know, the little Kilner jars.
Yeah.
They're great for storing syrups and things like that. I just use little bottles like this and just keep a little lid on them.
Oh yes.
I think they're about, I think they're roughly about 100 mils, maybe. Actually, no, I think they're 200. They're perfect for it because I'm the only person in this house who drinks whiskey. So when I'm making sugar syrup, I only make about 100 mils or so, 100 to 200 mils at a time, which lasts me ages. Like you're not using huge quantities of the syrup. Even in the likes of the old fashioned, like it's like 10 to 12 mils. I have a bit of a sweeter tooth, so I sometimes go up to 15. But even at 15 mils, that's going to last you a long time. You're not going to go through that too quickly.
Love it.
I am just giving my utensils a very quick wash here.
The history of the whiskey sour is quite interesting as well.
It is, yeah. Sorry, Barry, go ahead.
No, you're grand. You know a little bit about that, but I'll let you do your cleaning up. She's a true chef, cleaning as she goes, cleaning the kitchen as she goes. I'd be like a Tasmanian devil going through the kitchen with my stuff.
You got to. You don't really want egg white in a cocktail that it's not supposed to be in. Not the most pleasant things. And
you do make sure when you're making a mixture of cocktails that you clean out the measuring, your little your measures, your jiggers between pours. I've had. And bars don't often do this in Ireland, especially. I've discovered this a lot. Somebody just reaches for a jigger and they use it for a whiskey or something, but they don't even smell it first to see.
Yeah.
And it could have been absinthe, Pernod, Lefroy. It could have been any kind of a thing in it before. Yeah. And that's the end of the next 10 drinks.
Exactly. It's the bane of every bartender's life when their co-workers do not clean things in between cocktails, because as you said, Barry, if you've got a Talisker or a Lefroy whiskey lingering in that jigger, that's not going anywhere without a drop of washing up liquid or a dishwasher run. Definitely not. The other thing as well is like cream liqueurs. Like at this time of year, people drink Baileys obviously quite a lot. Yeah. Obviously there are other, in my opinion, superior alternatives now in the Irish whiskey world, but it's a clinger as well. It sticks. And
in Ireland, there's a distinct measuring size for the likes of Baileys. So if whiskey is 35.5 milliliters, Baileys is 50 milliliters, and then your double whiskey is like a 71 milliliter. So you'd always have kind of cream sticking to the side of this 50 mil measure, like Baileys was poured in it back in the day, if it wasn't mounted on the wall on an optic. For those of you who've made the cocktail, let us know what you think. Doug of the North says, add a little port wine on top and you've got a New York sour. Very interesting.
Yep. That's a good one.
Add a shot of Everclear or vodka to your syrup as a preservative. Oh, interesting. And a few of you talking about the vegan alternative to egg whites there. Yeah, it's called Aquafaba. It's just an extract from chickpeas, and it foams and it works really, really well.
It's actually arguably more commonly used in bars
Yeah,
because it comes in like a squeezy bottle. So
that's
it's
right.
so much easier. There's less mess. You just pour it directly into the shaker or yeah, the measurement. It's much better. David just said there as well, he puts a drop of, I think it was absinthe, was it? Into
Yeah.
the sour. That's a great shout as well. Like if you like your sours maybe a little bit more punchier, I've actually added hot sauce into one before and it was really nice. Like just a few dashes of hot sauce, and it kind of gives that little bit of spice. Great for this time of year as well because it warms you up. Provides a little bit of heat from the inside out, and it's great. It's really nice. So that's a good shout, David.
And without the aquafaba or the egg white, it wouldn't be as silky. Like even without the foam, it wouldn't have that lovely texture to it. It'll be kind of a silky
Yeah.
texture.
And that's purely what the egg white is there for. When you're drinking it, you can't taste the thing. You can't taste it at all. The whiskey and the syrup and the citrus should really shine through above anything else. And if it doesn't, well, maybe they've put a bit of yolk in your cocktail.
And that's called an omelette.
Yes.
What do we know about the history of the whiskey sour there, Santa's helper?
So Santa's helper. So the whiskey sour, with a lot of cocktails, there's always kind of like disputes about who created it first, where did it really originate, what's the true origin of it. So the whiskey sour actually dates back also to the 1800s as well, around about the first time that the word cocktail appeared, which was 1806, which, as Barry said at the start, is quite literally a spirit, sugar and water or bitters. Sorry. So in the 1800s, it's thought that sailors invented something along the lines of what would have been a whiskey sour. So when traveling by sea, obviously it was quite difficult to find sort of clean, fresh water on long voyages. So spirits like rum, whiskey, anything other than water became very, very popular. But also something that sailors suffered a lot from was scurvy. So this is where the lemon comes in. So they would have added lemon to their whiskey and created a sort of alternative to water sour. Probably wouldn't have tasted as pleasant as it does today, but that's where they think that the idea of adding lemon juice into a cocktail or a whiskey comes from. So we've got the sailors to thank for a sour.
And it was only after they discovered that scurvy was caused by lack of vitamin C that they would have brought lots of limes and lemons and oranges on the chips with them, and they would have been added into the rums and the whiskeys as well to kind of make those first sours and those first cocktails. I just read a great book called The Wager, and it's about a voyage, shipwreck, mutiny, shipwreck, death at sea from the late 1600s, early 1700s. And they didn't know what scurvy was at the time, and 60-70% of the sailors dead. They had no idea why they were dying. They couldn't understand it, and hundreds of bodies being thrown overboard, and all they needed was a bit of vitamin C, a few oranges if they'd had them on board. Instead, they had casks of cognac and casks of flour, but nothing with a bit of vitamin C in it.
That's interesting. There we are. Yeah, David just said limeys were the nickname of British sailors for a reason. Yeah, there you are.
Tell us, what is the second cocktail of the night tonight?
So the second cocktail of the night tonight is my personal favorite, as I said earlier. And I think this is the one that most people will actually make along with me because it is, as we said, so easy. It's an absolute staple. Anyone who loves Irish whiskey tends to love this cocktail as well. And it is an old-fashioned, but we're doing a festive twist. I just called it a festive old-fashioned because we are using gingerbread syrup. And the reason I picked gingerbread syrup is because my now favourite whiskey in an old-fashioned is my ever-beloved Powers Rye. So we're using a Powers Rye old-fashioned, and with rye whiskey, you get that beautiful sort of like warming gingerbread rye spice, and I just thought, perfect. Gingerbread's a great winter spice. It's so widely available this time of year in supermarkets due to people using it in coffees, gingerbread lattes, and so on. So I thought it'll be easy to pick up. You can make it as well. if you really want to, but it's just as easy to buy it in a bottle. I cheated with this one and bought it in a bottle, so don't feel guilty if you did it as well. And I thought, what better base to use than Powers Rye? So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing next. And I know a lot of you are waiting for this one as well.
I love it. Powers Rye has quickly become a staple in back bars. It's quickly become a staple in many homes. No more affordable a Powers whiskey will you be able to find. And I've enjoyed it a couple of times in the past week at bars in Cork that stock it, which is great to see. And you've made it your pride and joy this year. This was your one of your whiskeys of the year.
Absolutely. I tasted it for the first time. I think I mentioned this last week. I was on the way back from an event in Dublin and called in with Anthony and the team at Irish Whiskey Auctions in Dundalk, and it had just launched, I think, that week or the week before. And Anthony, of course, being Anthony, had a full bottle in the in the office. And I came in, I was driving, so I could only nose it really and have the tiniest little sip. But my word, did I fall in love with it instantly. It's such a warming whiskey. It is a clove bomb, banana bread, like that, as I said, that rye sort of spice, like rye crackers, that beautiful gingerbread warming spice in there as well. It's just such a great whiskey. It's so versatile. We enjoyed so many of these via old fashions in the Shelburne on the whiskey bus in August, and they went down a treat with a lot of us. And it's a cracking whiskey. It'll be on my shelf forevermore as long as they keep producing it. It'll be on my shelf.
Lots more of it coming too. They've been surprised at the reception of it, especially in the United States. No sooner did virtually all of the first batch of it shipped to the United States than it was already allocated to stores, and they're trying to play catch up. But they've been growing increasing amounts of rye over the past 4 or 5 years in Wexford in the southeast of Ireland, to not far from the original home of the Powers family in Oilygate in Wexford. And there are lots of plans and lots of distilling capacity available for increased production of Powers Rye, which unusually for a Powers whiskey is not made in copper pot stills. It's made 100% in column stills and 100% from rye, from Irish rye, which is remarkable. No malted barley, just rye, which is amazing.
It's unbelievable. And from chatting to some of the team from Powers, like Joe McGowan, he would be the sort of Powers, the whole Middleton sort of ambassador, the whole Middleton range ambassador up north. And I was chatting to him on Monday, and he said that the Powers Rye has done more from the brand than the rebrand did, than anything has done. It's really kind of put the whiskey back into people's minds, on people's shelves, on the back bar, as you said. So it's great, and it's such a great brand. So long may it continue.
Did you know that there was talk of it being a Jameson until somebody said no, we think this should be a Powers, and there's reasons why, which is amazing.
Brilliant. It's a great. I love the brand anyway, and I'm excited to see what's to come from them in 2024. So
right, we'll put you up full screen.
We'll get started. A trick that someone told me a good while ago, and I never even thought of it like this, but it's solid advice. Always put your spirit. So if you're making a cocktail, always put your spirit in the shaker last, because if you do something wrong, say if you put in the wrong syrup, or maybe too much of a syrup, too much citrus, you can always pour that out and it's not too big of a loss. But if you've poured 50 mils of a good whiskey or a good spirit in there, you have to throw it out. So always start with, or always put the spirit last. So this is a Festive old fashioned using Powers Rye. Other fantastic alternatives in old fashions are the Redbreast 12, which we just used. Blackbush is phenomenal. Sexton's also great. John's Lane. Honestly, there's a world of whiskies that you could use as a base for an old fashioned. And the only thing that we're changing up here is the syrup again. So really simple. Someone just mentioned up there, I think it might have been Cian, I'm not sure, that they are so glad that pumpkin spice season is gone. Me too. I do not like pumpkin spice. I love gingerbread, not pumpkin spice. So I agree with whoever said that. So yeah, you can use gingerbread syrup. You could use you could use pumpkin spice if you wanted to. Cinnamon, I think Kevin said, is a great alternative as well. But for this and the day that's in it, we're using gingerbread. So I have mine sort of pre-poured into a little bottle. As I said, I cheated here and used a store-made gingerbread spirit. I think it was actually Monin that I had in the house. So any other alternatives like that are perfect. And depending on how sweet of a tooth you have, you can use anything in the region between 10 mils. 10 to 12 is usually the recommended. Sometimes I put 15, but I think in this instance, because gingerbread is quite sweet, I can already kind of smell the sugar in this. I think I'm going to stick with about 12. So you want to take about 10 to 12 mils of your gingerbread syrup. So I'm, just like before, pouring it into my jigger, my form of measurement.
And that's a store-bought gingerbread syrup.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, how would you make gingerbread syrup?
So what you do is you get castor sugar.
Yeah.
You get ground ginger, I think it was about a tablespoon of ground ginger.
Yeah.
And a cinnamon stick. Bring it to a boil to let the sugar dissolve and let kind of the flavors be released from the ginger, I guess, and then discard the solid again, and then you can do it that way. But I chose to be lazy in this instance.
Oh, that's great. Fair play for knowing that too. That's helpful to know. I'm going to play around with that. Try and make some interesting syrups. I have a really sweet tooth. Like, I have such a sweet tooth, and I love, like, old fashions are my go-to. And I normally make just the standard old fashioned sugar syrup, Angostura bitters.
Yeah.
I use every kind of Irish whiskey, and then no cherries, no fruit, just the orange garnish at most.
Yep. I also have a very sweet tooth, and that's, I think, why old fashions are so much fun, because changing that one thing changes your whole cocktail. And it's actually crazy how much such a small amount of liquid can completely change the cocktail. Even like a mint old-fashioned would be lovely, or like a kind of a winter. I think Monin actually do a winter spice syrup, which would be amazing. Okay. So absolutely play around with it. It's great to do, and it's great to, it's good fun. If you have the time at the weekend or after work or whatever, play around with it. So I've added there, about 12 mils of the gingerbread syrup. Next, I'm going to go in with about 4 to 5 dashes of bitters, okay? So I'm actually using a Cork brand, Barra Bitters. It's owned by a lovely woman called Mary. I met her a few years ago at a whiskey festival. Cannot remember, there's been a lot over the years.
Just Mary, so it's just Mary in Cork.
I can't remember her surname, God forgive me, I cannot remember her surname. She's a lovely woman, Barry, you may know her.
Oh yeah, I know at least 3 Marys in Cork, so she's probably one of them.
One of them, yeah, totally. Cork's not a very big place, you know. So she gave me a few to sample, and I actually then went and bought a few more because they're absolutely beautiful, and it's always nice to support Irish brands as opposed to using some of the bigger names. So I just have orange bitters, and there's so many kind of bitters you can use. There's walnut bitters, chocolate bitters, a Dublin-based brand called Off the Cuff. Also have hedgerow bitters as well, which is quite herbal, quite aromatic, very, very interesting. But I'm just going with plain old orange bitters. So I'm going to take about 5 dashes of those in there. And then the last thing, of course, but not least, is the spirit, is Pars Rye. So again, 50 mils of this once again.
Ounce and 3/4. Lovely.
What do you say?
I was just explaining the ounces, ounce and 3/4. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. There we go. Just
occasionally I have something informative that's not a joke.
Fair enough. So the thing about an old fashioned is there's never a lot of liquid, and there's not a lot of liquid in the cocktail, but it's punchy, and that's why you don't need a lot of liquid, because it packs a punch. So what you want to do, we don't shake this cocktail. All you want to do is take, same again, about 3 blocks of ice, and we just want to stir it. So I'm literally just again adding my ice into the shaker there. You get a bar spoon. Any spoon will do, as long as you can reach the bottom of the shaker, and you just give it a nice stir. So you want to just stir it together, just bring those three 3 ingredients together, the whiskey, the syrup, and the bitters. Just give it a good stir for a few seconds. That smells amazing.
And did you know that the twisty nature of a bar spoon, the twisty little handle, is designed for you to be able to pour sodas and fizzy drinks down the spoon so that they don't fizz up and overflow when they hit your shaker or your glass?
That's great. Yeah, that's a great point. Something I learned a few years ago as well. And the other thing as well, never shake a cocktail with soda. Like, that's how you get shakers exploding over you and everything around you. So don't do that. You always kind of roll it, as they talk about. So then what you want to do is get a rocks glass. So like a round glass, can be a square glass, anything at all. And before you pour your cocktail in, you want to just put a couple of cubes of ice. Now, the best, not the best, but a really nice way to drink an old fashioned is with either the circular sort of sphere of ice right in the middle, or a big square block of ice. My ice is slightly too small just to put one in, so I'll probably again put about 3. This time of year it's not going to melt too fast anyway, so I've got about 3 cubes of ice in there. I'm going to once again get my strainer and just pour it straight over the ice.
Interesting. And do you recommend making it in the strainer or in the glass with an old fashioned? Does it matter?
What did you say? Sorry.
Do you recommend making it in the cocktail shaker or in the glass? You often see it being made live in the glass.
Yeah, it's personal preference. It honestly doesn't really matter. The only reason I would always do the strainer is because I know some people prefer to put like a sugar cube in their cocktail, and just so you don't have any of that kind of gritty texture or residue left over in the glass at all, is why I would prefer to use the strainer. But it really doesn't matter. It's personal preference. And there we have a festive gingerbread old fashioned. Cheers, everyone.
Don't you? Cheers.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so tasty. Not that I'm not trying to give credit to myself here whatsoever. It's the whiskey.
Lauren, would you be able to take your right hand and just pat your back there? Yeah, that's it. Fair play. All right, well done.
That is such. Powers Rye is amazing in an old fashioned. That for all the reasons I just mentioned. That you really can get the heat, just that really gentle sort of warming spice from the gingerbread syrup. And then, of course, that kind of rye spice coming through from the whiskey as well. It just pulls all those flavors together. That's going to be made a lot in my house in the next few weeks. Let me tell you.
That is going to be replicated in my house as well. I'm out of Powers Rye, and a bottle needs to be found immediately, or heads will roll. Powers themselves came out with their own old fashioned a while ago, and I don't think this ever made it to the United States. But this is the Powers classic cocktail old fashioned, 38% ABV. All you do is you add ice and to your glass, and you just open this and pour it, and that's it. Garnish it with a twist of orange. It is contains Powers Gold and a sugar syrup and a bitter herb flavoring.
That is that's a great point actually, because now this was before COVID. I'm pretty sure that was launched, but that's something that took off massively over COVID and over the lockdown period was batched cocktails, sort of pre-made bottled cocktails. There's a good few examples across Ireland. There's the Craft Cocktails, which is Bar 1661 in Dublin. Those guys are behind them. They were fantastic. They did kind of bottled old fashions, espresso martinis, whiskey sours. And then there's a company, Belfast based as well, called Cocktail Keg Company. And they did the same. And I mean, honestly, the pandemic was the making of their business in a lot of cases, because as you said, all you have to do is open the bottle, pour it over ice, shake it, and into a glass. Done. Simple. So for people who were missing the bars, didn't have the confidence to make the drinks themselves at home, it was such a good alternative. I went through a lot of them to get me through lockdown.
The craft cocktails, I actually ordered them from Ireland in COVID to California. Like living in San Diego, I had them shipped out to California to get us through COVID, and they're fantastic. And talking to Dave Mulligan, the owner of Bar 1661, recently, he was talking about how there's quite a few bars now in Ireland that, rather than developing their own cocktail program, they'll instead have a list of the craft cocktails that he makes, and he'll ship bottles and bottles of everything from daiquiris, margaritas, old fashions, every kind of cocktail, amazingly kind of beautiful minimalistic packaging. And he'll be the cocktail program for a bar through craft cocktails, which means you get consistency. You're not worried about training the staff all the time. Not that you shouldn't be, but it does allow for a consistent cocktail program. And I know they're available, for example, in the Franciscan Well in Cork. If you want a Bar 1661 cocktail, you can get it right there, which is amazing.
And it was also a fantastic way for maybe a pint-led bar who maybe didn't have trained cocktail staff to diversify their clientele.
Yeah.
Because they had them on, as you said, draft. And it made it so easy for them literally just to pour it into a glass and serve it to a customer. It was fantastic. It really, really did help businesses. It's a fantastic idea. Really, really was. And they're still going strong as well. They're great for parties, great for like sort of mass events where if you've got 200-300 people at an event, nobody's got time to be cleaning shakers and cracking egg whites left, right, and center. So yeah, it's fantastic.
I'm going to share a picture of them. Let me pull this up on the screen here. Find the picture here.
While you do that, Kristen just asked a question about what brand of gingerbread syrup it was. Monin is the one we've been kind of raving about the whole evening. Monin. They do have a US website and they can ship as well. They're fantastic. They're great.
This is the here are the craft cocktails, which were made in Bar 1661, and you'll find them in bars all over Ireland now. I think that there is a cultural opposition. The more rural you get in Ireland, you'll hear things like, you wouldn't get away with that in this pub, or we're a pint bar. It's just pints here, which I think is an awfully short-sighted view of drink when you can be charging 15 or 16 euros for something that costs you 3 euros or 4 euros. I think that bars are missing a trick, not having a cocktail menu. No more profitable thing will you find in a bar than the perfectly crafted cocktail. No more profitable an item will you have.
You're exactly right. Do you know what I was just thinking? In all my excitement of Pars Rye, I forgot to garnish the old fashioned with an orange peel.
I thought I saw it in it. I thought I saw it floating on top. No, there it is.
Okay. I had mine. Just literally peel a little bit of orange peel, twist it so you release the oil, so you express the oils, the citrus. It's in it now. I've remedied it now.
I saw a few comments from me there, folks, about Luxardo cherries, maraschino cherries, each to their own. I cannot abide a cherry in an old fashioned personally. I think it gives, for me, it just ruins the flavor of an old fashioned for me. And sometimes bars take it too far. Like I've been at bars where my old fashioned needed a knife and fork because there was so much fruit inside it. And I gave it back because that's not an old fashioned at all. What you gave me, here's the fruit salad. I want an old fashioned. And so for me, the classic is the classic, and that's it. But like what you were saying there about variations on the syrup, variations on the whiskey, like the base whiskey, I'm all about that. But when you start adding things in, I don't know, like for me, again, we're not here to tell people how to drink their whiskeys. And if you love a cherry, by all means, dump a truckload of cherries into your old fashions. But
it's kind of the same sort of vibe as mint leaves in Irish coffees.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Mint leaves?
Yeah. You know when you get a big mint leaf, if you go to a pub, like let's be real. There are very few bars, not just in Ireland and not just in the US, across the world that know how to make a proper Irish coffee. It's probably, I would say, the hardest Irish cocktail to get right for some reason because of the squirty cream, of the balance between the coffee and the whiskey.
We're making excuses for people. It's not that hard, like.
No, yeah, I know. I don't know. It's just got lost in translation over the years. But it's when you see a mint leaf in an Irish coffee, no.
I got one in Cork about a year ago where, I tasted it. At first it came out and the creams were already sinking. I thought, all right, look, we'll give them a pass there. Took a sip of it and thought, there's no sugar in this, is there? And so I called over to the bartender. I said, you didn't put any sugar in this, did you? And he goes, oh, no. He goes, we have sachets of sugar for those people who wanted sweet. I went, what? And what do I do with the sugar now? Do I put it through the cream, is it? And what happens to the cream? And do I stir it then myself? And how do I get the sugar to dissolve? Back to our point there a few weeks ago about education.
Yes. Yeah. It's it's honestly crazy. I something similar happened to me a good few years ago, which is why now I'm very reluctant to order an Irish coffee. And it's not a snobbery thing, it's genuinely just the drink being made the correct way. I'm very particular about where I will order one. Because it's just one of those ones that's never consistent. I had something very similar actually. I honestly think they filled half the glass with whiskey and a splash of coffee and a bit of cream. Now I love whiskey, but when I'm expecting an Irish coffee with a bit of sweetness and you take a big sip of it and it just hits you, you really fell off my seat. Yeah, it's definitely the one that's most inconsistent, I think. I could ignore a cherry in an old fashioned if I had a proper Irish coffee now, I think.
And I'd only find myself ordering an Irish coffee in a bar that prides themselves on it, like where they say our specialty is the Irish coffee. Great, knock me out. Like I'll try the specialty of any house.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bar 1661, obviously they're Belfast coffee, the cold Irish coffee with bon poaching is their staple, but they also do a very good traditional Irish coffee. Shelburne and Cork, brilliant one. Garrick and Belfast, fantastic. You need to be fussy and don't be scared to educate people. I know you don't want to be that person, but if you do it in a nice way, I think it can always benefit the bartender.
Lauren, what is our third festive cocktail of the night?
Our third festive cocktail is this is the only cocktail out of the three that is not typically made with whiskey. This is a vodka based drink. Now, we had great crack on a shebeen a number of weeks ago talking about all the spirits that we can no longer drink anymore due to various poor decisions while growing up and discovering alcohol. One of those for me is vodka, as we had a great discussion on. I know David's is tequila. I think it's somebody else's sambuca. Vodka is mine. So I love coffee. I love whiskey. And a few years ago, a good number of years ago now, actually, I was handed an espresso martini and I thought, I'm not going to like this because I don't like vodka. And the bartender told me, actually, it's whiskey in it. And it was the Sexton, deemed a Sextini, which I think is a great name, rolls off the tongue. And it changed my life. And I have never, genuinely, since that day and hour that I had a sip of an espresso martini with a whiskey, I've never gone back. Whiskey, obviously, has so much more character, so much more body, so much more flavor than vodka. Vodka is designed to be a very neutral spirit. So I just think it holds up much better. And I've also noticed in recent years in espresso martinis, rum has become really popular, like rum teenies. Even flavored vodka is slightly better than just neutral, ordinary vodka. But for me, the Sexton is the third and final whiskey that we're using as a base tonight in an espresso martini. Now, the origins of this one date back to Fred's Club in London, allegedly, in the 1980s. So this is kind of the younger of the three cocktails that we have tonight. It's credited to a bartender called Dick Bradsell, who apparently made this drink on a whim one night when a certain model celebrity, a British model celebrity, entered his bar, and I cannot repeat this, but they basically asked for something to wake them up and get them very, very drunk. And this is what he presented them with, and apparently that's when it really started to take off. That model was meant to be Kate Moss. Don't really know. That's never been confirmed. That's the story that goes with this cocktail. But I feel like for those people in your family, your friends who maybe don't really like whiskey but love their coffee, and they maybe would traditionally drink an espresso martini, it's really popular, as you know, worldwide now. This is a great alternative, I think, anyway.
Give it to us.
keep going. So this is the whiskey teeny / the sextini. So as I said, the sexton is going to be the base. We're going to need freshly brewed espresso coffee, coffee liqueur, and vanilla or honey syrup. Now the syrup is not necessary here, but again, as I've said, I have a very sweet tooth, and I feel just that tiny little bit of syrup kind of contrasts the kind of sharpness and bitterness of the coffee. So again, going to take 1/2 of my shaker. No ice, nothing in just yet. And the first thing we're going to do is add the freshly brewed coffee. So I just have mine. I made this earlier. Let it cool in the fridge, of course, as well. You don't really want to be adding fresh hot coffee into your shaker because the ice will melt and nobody wants that. So where's my measure? There we are. I'm losing everything at this stage of the game. So you want to take about 30 mils. So about 30 mils of the freshly brewed coffee. Am I really drinking this at 1:10 a.m.? Yeah, let's do it.
Sleep tonight.
No sleep tonight. Absolutely buzzing off coffee and whiskey. So about 30 mils of the freshly brewed coffee. We then want to take the coffee liqueur. So the most popular brand that's used in terms of coffee liqueur is Kahlua. You'll see that everywhere. It's very, very widely available all across Ireland, all across the US. It's the one that's most typically used. I know in recent years there's been a great few Irish coffee liqueurs released. Cologne Gloria is a great example. I finished my bottle of that because I kept putting it in my 2 stacks cream, which is great together. So the most recent one I purchased is actually from Copeland. It's their cold brew coffee liqueur. So that's what I'm going to use. But as I said, Kahlua, there's nothing wrong with Kahlua.
Where's that from, Lauren? I missed that. Where's that coffee liqueur from?
Copeland.
Oh, Copeland. I haven't heard. And now, where are they based? I've not heard them mentioned before.
I knew this was coming. I knew. I was trying to brush over this. Barry thinks I'm obsessed with Copeland. I love Copeland. I'm a massive fan of the brand, but I don't really know where this started, but it's an ongoing joke. So this is only released, I think, about 3 weeks ago, maybe even less.
I actually think Lauren is a plant in our company from Copeland who's been put there by Copeland to constantly suggest we visit, we buy, we do things with it's unbelievable. The amount of you're being paid by them. I'm sure you're being paid by them.
Listen, bit of cash in the back pocket. I'm on commission. Leave me alone.
Oh, that's on camera now. That's recorded now. I have witnesses.
Amy's just said the Copeland is excellent. So see what I mean? I've got supporters in there. So how much we're using of this? 20 mils, yeah, of the coffee liqueur straight in there once again. Lovely. Oh, that's strong. I'm definitely not going to sleep tonight. And then again, I have cheated here, folks, but for good reason. I always put vanilla syrup in my coffee, so I always have it in my house. I love an iced coffee or a latte with vanilla syrup, so I'm going to put probably about 12 mils. Again, just you can find it in any store. It is actually more often than not by the coffee section, of course, for obvious reasons. So about, use the shaker, about 10 to 12 mils of that in there. Lovely. And then the most important part, once again, the whiskey. So we have the sexton. So I've always found with the sexton, being 100% sherry aged, I've always found a really, really subtle kind of coffee undertone to the sexton. So it really just lends itself to a cocktail like this. So again, the same as we've done all throughout tonight, about 50 mils of this. A little bit more. I'm not actually pouring myself double measures, by the way. This is only a 40 mil measure.
You're going for a bottle kill there. I'd say you're almost.
Yeah. In case anyone thinks I'm doubling up on measures here and I'll never sleep tonight, I am not. And that is us, simple as. So once again, I'm going to take, where are my tongs? There we are. Going to put about 3 cubes of ice in here once again for a good old shake. There we go. A bit more. There we are. And for this cocktail as well, for an espresso martini, you will always see it served in a coupe glass or a martini glass. Even though it's not actually a martini because there's no gin in it. But anyway. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There we are. So a good bit of condensation there. This doesn't want to come off for me now. There we go. There we are. Oh, it smells amazing. Strainer. So I'll hold it up for the first strain, and then I'll have to set it back down just to get the rest of it out. In a cooked glass, straight in, no ice. Once again.
Lovely, lovely and chilled.
Lovely and chilled.
Oh, beautiful.
And you'll see the kind of coffee flow down the drink. It'll darken down a little bit. And I'm going to set it back down so we can get the rest of the froth out. Ooh, mild bit of spillage. There we are. And then once you've got the rest of the drink out, optional garnish once again are coffee beans. So you literally just need 3 little coffee beans. I have some here. Just some little coffee beans in a bowl.
Lovely.
And you just drop them. Usually about 3. You just drop them on top. And we have a sextini. There we are.
Amazing. Sláinte. Get that shot of coffee into you.
So good. I haven't had one of those in a very long time. And I don't know why I ever stopped.
It's not far off an Irish coffee, like.
Not a million miles. No, really not a million miles.
Sugar, whiskey,
just a chilled
coffee.
version.
Yeah, just no cream. All you're missing is the cream. Yeah.
Exactly. And you'll notice as well, you just need to give it a really good hard shake to get this foam. There's no egg white in this, obviously, but it just really, really froths up with a hard shake. Lovely. Lovely.
I think you've done an amazing job here. These are 3 twists on the traditional cocktails using a very appropriate set of ingredients in terms of balance and flavor, I thought, throughout. And it's just 3 representations of what can be done with a little bit of effort, a little bit of pre-planning to make the Irish whiskey go further, or more ways to enjoy your whiskey. What's your opinion on expensive Irish whiskies in cocktails?
I say go for it, because if you want a really nice dinner, if you want to cook yourself a nice meal, you use the nice ingredients. And it's exactly the same for whiskey. Like if you want a really nice, smooth, creamy, beautiful, balanced cocktail, use a great whiskey. I remember when a great example of this is when the Bushmills Vermouth cask was launched, which I know a lot of you are fans of. On the whiskey bus last year, queuing up outside the Friend at Hand to get it at 9 a.m. when it launched. So I remember a bartender asking me, can I use this in a cocktail, like a 200 odd euro bottle of whiskey in a vermouth? They wanted to make a Manhattan basically, and I said absolutely, knock yourself out. And I normally don't really like Manhattans, but it was beautiful. So I'm an advocate for it. I don't know if there's a line. I don't know, but I'm here for the use of great whiskey and more expensive whiskey in cocktails.
I think I've publicly been quite vocal about using whatever you want, in whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. And you often hear in Facebook groups or on online forums comments like, what a waste of a good whiskey, when somebody sees something that is typically something that either they would see as out of their price range, or they've applied some should to whiskey, which I don't think shoulds exist in the world of whiskey. But my response to that would always be, the only way you'd have wasted the whiskey is if you didn't enjoy the end result. But if you enjoyed the end result equally or more than it in its neat form, it's a win.
I think so too. It can't be a waste, as you say, if you enjoy it and if you make it well and you're genuinely an advocate for whiskey, for Irish whiskey and cocktails. I can't see it as a waste. There's a few questions coming in there about a peated whiskey for cocktails. I actually think, Barry, your WD O'Connell would be pretty good. Or the short
Yeah,
cross. It makes a great old fashioned, doesn't it?
absolutely. The both of these make great old fashions. A smoky old fashioned. The short cross makes for a fantastic one because of the orange citrus notes that pair perfectly with uh, a sweet sugar syrup, obviously, and then whether you're using orange or Angostura bitters, it's the perfect balance. I have leveled a few smoky old fashions that were made with short cross, and then you stand up and you realize, oh, that was 66% ABV. I should have had the old walker beside the couch to get me to the next room. So watch out for that. The ABV can be quite high. Also, the peat cask, where our pot still whiskey from W.D. O'Connell just rested in a peat cask for 2 years. That's also a great use of a whiskey for a smoky old fashioned. It's my new favorite old fashioned, a smoky old fashioned. It just adds more depth of flavor, and I'm all about it. Despite my job, I actually consume, I would say, more whiskey and cocktails than I do neat. Like I sip a lot of whiskeys to taste, I sample a lot of whiskeys, but to drink a lot of whiskeys, I can't just drink neat whiskeys all the time. I like old fashions. For me, are just the perfect, with my sweet tooth, perfect complement.
I think as well though, like if you're having a whiskey, like if it's a working, like a school night or whatever, you don't necessarily want to always be drinking it neat. Like it is nice to kind of balance it out with something. So I feel like a cocktail, or as you say, an old fashioned, is absolutely perfect for that.
And as we were saying earlier, don't be afraid to put the old Pepsi Max into the old fashioned as well. A few drops of this, substitute it for your. You can actually use this instead of your sugar syrup, and you'll be perfectly happy. Nobody be upset.
You didn't throw it in the old fashioned there to see how it worked, no?
No, not yet. But I'll take some time with that. Maybe in a kind of a more lab environment to get proper controls in place, and we'll do samples. But I think you did a great job. This is honestly now, and you had just great presentation and really helped us understand why these things work together, and a little backstory to everything as well. And lots of compliments for you in the chat there as well. Folks, make some cocktails this Christmas, please.
Please do. Please. Definitely post them in the group. I want to see them. We want to see them. It makes me very happy. I saw Brian say there that he's going to share the old fashioned with a few friends and family members. Show us, take photos. The best thing ever is to enjoy whiskey with your friends and family, and to document it as well for the memory. So please do it. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. All folks, the lovely comments.
This is our last Shebeen of 2023. We've had a great run, and we've had one almost every week for the year, and it's been fantastic. And it's been an absolute joy having Lauren co-host with me, and I wouldn't have it any other way going forward. And she makes the Shebeens so much more enjoyable and fun, and let's be honest, more educational, because after all, what am I going to bring to the table with these fantastic cocktails? So a big thank you to Lauren for this year. You've done a great job, and we're lucky to have you as part of Irish Whiskey Experiences. We've got lots of those coming up. What's the next thing people will hear about in relation to Irish Whiskey Experiences?
So the next thing that's coming in the new year, which is very scarily close in the next couple of weeks, is another whiskey bus. I almost said the name there. We're not quite ready to reveal it just yet. Another whiskey bus, which is coming in hopefully September 2024. So we will be, if you keep an eye on our socials, give us a follow on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. It's all the same handle, Irish Whiskey Experiences. We may slowly, we kind of have already started maybe teasing out potential visits for the next whiskey bus. We're being very cryptic, but all will be revealed in the next couple of weeks, and I'm very, very excited. Obviously, our next solid whiskey bus, it's sort of solidified and people are joining us, is in March. We're heading west. I'll be heading to some of those brands that we're going to visit in the new year as well, to finalize some very exciting plans, and we cannot wait. We've had really exciting conversations for private whiskey buses as well, as Barry kind of hinted at the other night. And it's a great year. We cannot wait to support the Irish whiskey industry, meet lovely people, meet you folks, and just continue the crack. Very lucky.
And we're trying to give you as much notice as possible about our next whiskey bus by giving you probably about 8.5 months notice. So we'll tell you in January for a September whiskey bus. and we'll do our best to give as much notice about future whiskey buses. Like we're already planning the one after that, and other experiences that might bookend the whiskey bus. So if you're planning on traveling to Ireland in September for our next whiskey bus, we'll have some experiences a day or two before, a day or two after that you might want to tag on, which will make your experience even more elevated. So we're working on all these things. Look, our goal is very simple, as Lauren said: bring you closer to the people, the places, and the pours in ways that that we couldn't otherwise do if we didn't build a company around it.
Absolutely. Nigel joining Irish Whiskey Experiences full time. He may as well be on our payroll because he refuses to let any other driver join our tours because he loves the crack. He loves us, even though we ruined his bus. But he got over that quite quickly once he remembered that we're great fun.
We have lots to reveal. As Lauren said, we'll start teasing that out after Christmas. So early January, you're going to start seeing things coming from us that'll start not even teasing, pretty much telling you, here's one of the days, here's one of the experiences, here's one of the things that are part of Whiskey Bus in September. So that's exciting. And like Lauren said, we will be embarking on our next Whiskey Bus in March, which is fantastic. Before that, our next big event, Stories and Sips, is involved in, which is we're hosting a charity fundraiser in Ohio, March 1st to March 3rd. So I'll be flying home from that to join the next Whiskey Bus. It is a fundraiser for 2 charities in Ohio this year. We're opening 2 bottles of Middleton Very Rare Silent Distillery, 48 years of age, Chapter 4, the oldest and most expensive bottles of Irish whiskey ever opened in America. And we're going to do this to raise important funds for Malachy House and a charity in Columbus, Ohio. We're taking over Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio in March. The details of this, we're hoping to go live before Christmas with the links, with all the details. It's more affordable than previous years. It's more accessible. We've figured out ways to make this a great experience for more people than before. So we're hoping to see lots of you in Ohio in person to celebrate with myself and Kevin O'Gorman, the master distiller from Middleton Distillery. We're flying him over to participate, and we're going to have a fantastic, fantastic time. It'll be the highlight of our Ohio whiskey year. And then we will fly back to Ireland and participate in our whiskey bus with some of the same people who might even join us in Ohio. So looking forward to sharing details about that. We have another Stories and Sips Whiskey Club event coming up this Tuesday. I see over Lauren's right shoulder 4 cans there that are component cans that are part of our blending masterclass taking place this Tuesday night with Eric Flynn, our Stories and Sips blender. Eric was also part of the JJ Corrie team that helped develop and blend our inaugural whiskey back in the middle of COVID, The Story. Eric has been working hard on the blend, a couple of different versions of a blend for us. So please tune in, whether you're a whiskey, whether you have a tasting kit or a blending kit or not, this Tuesday night. I'd encourage you to join our blending masterclass where Eric is going to teach us how blends are made. And I tell you what, I learned so much from doing this work with Eric so far. And you're going to learn so much, because just when you think you know things about whiskey, then you listen to a blender who spends his days figuring out ABVs and ratios and balances and flavor profiles, and you start to learn a whole lot else. So I'm really looking forward to Eric sharing how it's more than just saying, give me 25% of this, 10% of that, 20% of that. That is the smallest part of it. We're going to have a great time, and we're going to formulate our next Stories and Sips Whiskey Club bottling, which as soon as we have it decided and agreed upon, we will work with our friends at Two Stacks Irish Whiskey to get it bottled and shipped to you in the United States. Lots of whiskeys coming in 2024 in our whiskey club that I'm excited about. If you want to pick up more of our W.D. O'Connell whiskeys, they're available on our website, and 2 exclusive single pot still whiskeys, single casks, unavailable anywhere else in the world. Reduced shipping, subsidized shipping for you, our club members. So they're available. Make nice last minute Christmas gifts if you want them as well. And I think that is it for this week and this year, Lauren.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just before we depart, obviously we'll be active in the group. I have no doubt over the next week, posting our festive serves and enjoying our Christmases. But genuinely, you're all the most supportive, friendly, welcoming, engaging community that I have ever had the pleasure of being part of, and it's so nice to see familiar faces pop up in the comments every week, or even new faces come up all the time, which is amazing. And yeah, it's fair play to Barry for bringing me on here. I don't know why he ever decided to do that. But it's great crack. And yeah, thank you, Barry, for trusting me to co-host this with you. And obviously last week, as I said, to work with yourself and Anthony on Irish Whiskey Experiences is an absolute pleasure and great fun, and we couldn't be luckier, I think, to work in such a fantastic industry. So I'm raising the glass to every single one of you. I hope everybody has a lovely, safe, happy Christmas, happy holidays, and a fantastic new year, and may you drink lots of Irish whiskey with your loved ones.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
We'll be back. We're going to take a few weeks off, folks, for Christmas and to regroup and to plan what we're going to do for 2024. We'll be back probably in the middle of January with more shebeens. So we're going to take a few weeks off, and we'll be back with a bang to launch our next whiskey bus and talk about that as well. So have a great holiday season. We'll see you online at various events on our Facebook group, or posts and get-togethers on our Facebook group. But in the meantime, stay safe. Take care of those that you love. Drink a bit of Irish whiskey, and we hope to see you back here again in the new year. Sláinte, everybody.
Sláinte, everyone. Happy Christmas.